There we go. So let's do the different one I wanted. There we go. The sound came back, so the cat came back. Now he wants in, but he didn't want in the last 3 times I opened. And now the other one wants in, the one that was back and forth and the back and forth. And they're enough to make me because the sound is here. And now it's like, I need you to come and get me because the sound is going to get me if you don't let me in. Come on. How about the Rich? Come. Come on. In. Now maybe they'll stay in for a minute and I can get there. So when we're talking about vocabulary words, one of the vocabulary words that's pretty commonly misunderstood today, especially within the United States, we've gone over 4 already, and that was all on YouTube, and this will all be on YouTube as well. So if you've missed some, you're welcome to go back into YouTube. I did not put vocabulary words on there. I will update that. Or that it was vocabulary words. We went over the difference between what tribe means, which is a community based on genetic lineage, and what band means, which is a community based on need of community and individual, not genetic lineage. Citizenship with community, I apologize, where your citizenship is based on your genetic lineage and where your citizenship is based by the need of the community and the need of the individual. Tribe and band. We went over the difference per the UN of what indigenous means and native means anywhere outside of the United States. The United States themselves conflates the two. The United States conflates native and indigenous. Native is a people that have been there since time immemorial, but whose government is in charge of the area. And indigenous is a people who's been there since time immemorial, and in a space where native is also, they are not the ones that have control of the governance in the area, is one of the defining differences. Another defining difference is the fact that an indigenous community is a community who still has very strong spiritual and religious spiritual and cultural and societal ties to the land around them, the land of their community. So they've been there both since time immemorial, first peoples within a space, and they have that spiritual and cultural and societal tie to the land within that space. And they've maintained that across the millennia. It has changed and grown as all things change and grow, because that is what life is about. Yet the tie has remained this tight spiritual and cultural tie. And Native people do not have, outside of the United States, not Turtle Island Native people who are indigenous Turtle Islanders, but Native as a different word from indigenous, where it is anywhere else across the globe, do not have this strong spiritual and cultural ties to the land that indigenous groups within our communities within that area did. Hey, Pickle. I've been up a lot all week long, but it's been really, I don't know what's going on with TikTok. So I do not know what's going on with TikTok at this point. My live keeps freezing, and it's been very low count, and it's just been fun. I'm trying to figure it all out. So when we look at that concept in vocabulary, those 4 different terms within vocabulary, those are the 4 terms that we discussed earlier in the live, and those terms are on TikTok, or are on YouTube with the live that was on. I have no clue why it froze. It just froze. I have no clue. So, um, moving into the next definition that I want to go over for vocabulary. And of course, this is all live streaming over on YouTube. And it's not my face live streaming right now. It is actually websites. It's my website that's up right now. I do not have vocabulary terms on my website. I probably should have vocabulary terms on my website. So science means, science is actually the act of, because that's what it is. It's an act. Science is, I observe something in nature, see, observe. I have a thought process or hypothesis of what that observation means. I have a prediction of what that hypothesis is going to be. I test that hypothesis and that prediction. And if that test proves true, I either have a thing or I have a concept, right? If we're looking at conceptual science versus actual physical science, right? So once I've tested it and it proves either true or false, if the testing proves true and I have the concept or the thing, right, I continue to test it constantly. Whether this is my very first time of a flint knapping of tool, and every time I flint knap a tool, I consistently test, does the antler work best with the edge of the blade to fine tool the edge of the blade, okay? Or whether it's string theory, or things like the theory of race or the theory of evolution. The theory of race has been debunked because it is something that was constantly retested. And when more accurate science, less racist science, more weighty science, science with physical evidence outside of your eyes and your own perception based on your racist ideology, science comes into being, that science proves that race doesn't actually exist because there is actually more genetic difference within a primary population community. So like there's more genetic difference within the Kwe people within South Africa, right? Then there is between genetic difference between a primary population in South Africa, the Kwe, and a primary population in Sweden, the Sami, right? So there is more genetic difference within the Kwe. They actually have all the genes from the human genome within them, except for those that we get from other species, right? Then there is between the Kwe and somebody of Sami in Sweden, right? Northern Sweden, so our Sompi land, right? So what this means is that me and my next door neighbor are more genetically different within a primary population than me and somebody clear across the globe. I might have, and these numbers are arbitrary and these numbers are small just for me to explain them. I might have, there might be 100 genes for the human population. All of us only get a total of 100 genes and everybody only gets 25. And I might have 1 through 25 and somebody in Sweden might have 1 through 25, right? I might have 1 through 25 and my next door neighbor is going to have 75 through 100. There's more genetic difference within primary population than there is between primary populations. And this is really something that if you use your brain, you'll understand is a necessity for our species population, because we know that inbreeding is bad for our species. Inbreeding causes genetic abnormalities. Inbreeding causes problems. So if you and your next door neighbor are completely the same genetically, or more likely to carry all the same genes, then you're more likely to mutate together. You're more likely to inbreed, right? So you want to have a higher genetic difference within a primary population to maintain population growth, to maintain population health, right? So theory gets debunked when the testing no longer proves true. And if that's the case, then you might go back to your hypothesis. In the case of race theory, when race theory got debunked, I'm pretty sure that there are some racists out there who have gone back to the hypothesis they're better than everybody else because they need something to confirm that hypothesis, and have tried to find new ways to double down that thought process, or just ignored the fact that science has changed and understands more things. Now, one thing within Western science is the fact that Western science is very new. The science that I just talked about with you, the understanding that science is an act, right? That science is an understanding of the world around you. Science is actually a uniquely human understanding of the world around us, right? Many animals throughout the entire biome, right, our Earth, many animals can use tools. Corvids can use tools. Primates can use tools. There's a couple others that my brain is not pulling right now that actually can use tools. Elephants, I think, are one of them, right? So many other animals across the animal kingdom, right, actually can use tools, right? And pretty much everything out there adapts its adaptations and or adapts the world around it, right? Not adapts its adaptations, but adapts the world around it, right? Even the plants, the chemicals that the plants release, adapts the world around them. They create nutrients for the soil. They create fertilization. They give oxygen. They adapt the world around them. And that adaptation of the world around them creates a better home for them. It's part of why they were created in a space, right? To be able to serve the biome as a whole, right? So when you see that humans, when you see science as this uniquely human thing, because science takes the adaptations that anything else makes, right? That every other being across the planet makes to the world around it. And it takes those adaptations a step further, right? It takes the tool usage that starts out with the Oldowan tool usage that within the last year we found it is actually Paranthropus boisei and not Homo habilis. And it adapts that tool usage into an entirely new tool. So we see that with the Oldowan tools, we're seeing very basic tools, hammerstones and cobblestones and flaked blade instruments, very basic tools. Then you start to see a bifocal or a biflaked instrument coming through when we start to see the Acheulean hand axe coming in with Homo erectus, who by using this understanding of the world around them that is a scientific brain understanding, were able to take the adaptation they saw and adapt that adaptation further. Again, this is something that's very uniquely human. And it is something that is seen throughout every species that we consider to be human. The genus Homo is human. Genus is in front, it's this taxonomy thing that's created along with the theory of evolution and the theory of race and the theory of, species and everything else, right? It's got roots in racism. It's really problematic on some levels, and it is still the way that we're rating different species across the planet now, right? So within the taxonomic unit, right above the species, sapien, is the genus, Homo. The genus is kind of the family that we all come from, right? And so the genus being the family that we all come from the human family, Homo in Latin. And we were defining Latin earlier a little bit, but Homo in Latin is human. Homo in Greek is same, right? So Homo in Latin is man and Homo in Greek is same. And this for very much kind of understands a little concept between those two groups as well, right? The similarities in the language and what they kind of mean, right? Because if I'm looking at you and seeing the same as me, then I'm seeing man, right? Or human, right? So when we're looking at the understanding of science throughout the entirety of our timeline as a genus, we see that the understanding of science really starts with the very beginning of our genus. We see the very beginning of our genus really is these days Homo erectus. Homo habilis is part of our genus. And if we look, and I'm going to pull up over on YouTube the bibliography tab that has Homo erectus on it. And we're going to look at this hominid species timeline here. And I've talked in here before about the fact that many different hominin species timelines kind of are going to be different on different charts. Wherever you're looking at them, you're going to see many different dates on them. Like some people are going to take them to the extreme end, and some people are going to take them in a little bit, and some people are going to take them the extreme end one way and not so much this way. So it flows back and forth quite a bit, right? But we see that Homo habilis is, like on this chart here, Homo habilis is coming in at the same time that Homo erectus is coming in. We now have more of an understanding that Homo erectus is kind of coming from what we believe within the last year to be a convergence of Homo habilis, Homo habilis, and Lucy, Australopithecus africanus, and Paranthropus boisei. Excuse me. And a convergence between those three different species, it looks like, is what actually gives rise to Homo erectus. We now know also that Homo sapiens comes out of many of the different subspecies of Homo erectus kind of coming together as well. There's a lot of questions on all of these topics of who is coming from, though, right now. I mean, currently it's up for debate as to whether or not Neanderthal is sapien and sapien is Neanderthal. Like, that's the current debated or being debated or looked at on the paleological or paleoanthropological scales, right? Like within the community, I guess is the best way to put it, right? So, as we're looking at these shifting of dates and shifting of understandings as how humans are coming into being, we'll cover these all. But again, I'm trying to stick with vocabulary. We know I get squirreled all over the place. So when we're looking at the act of science, the action of science, the reality of what science is, right? We see that science itself goes back to the very first human who changes the adaptations of the world around them. And since we know now that Homo habilis didn't create this stone tool, we know that the first human that we get that we know is taking in and adapting an adaptation, which would not be what Homo habilis would be doing either, even if they were creating it, because then they're creating this tool, they're adapting, right? It's not the taking and further adapting it, right? So when we see Homo erectus, we can see that Homo erectus takes this very early on, and Homo erectus uses this throughout their time as a species to really give you everything and anything that you have today. I like to state frequently that it is the science of Homo erectus that created your brain. It is the science of Homo erectus's children that gave you the thoughts that you have today and the ability to be who you are today. It is the science of Homo erectus that gives you your phone, right? Within certain portions of the world, this knowledge of interaction of who we are as a species with the environment and the biome around us continued uninterrupted until specific dates. Within certain, let me rephrase that. Roughly 400 CE, we see that the Roman empires need to unify under a single empire. Takes somebody's ideas and twists and bastardizes them. So unable to access live. We're sorry, there's a problem connecting you to live. End this live and check your network connection and try again. So I'm going to do that really quick. We're going to try this, and we're going to try this. And let's see. Let's try. We're trying something else. We'll see if this something else works better. I don't know if this something else will work better. We'll see if this something else works better. It keeps pausing us and kicking us out, and I don't know why. It loves me. It loves me. And it also said that the internet was gone. So I'm not even sure where it popped off at and stopped working for everybody. So if you've missed anything, it is all over on YouTube, where I'm also live streaming right now. And earlier's live is over on YouTube, where I'm also live streaming right now. So when we're looking at the way that Homo erectus is utilizing science to move us forward as a species, we see that Homo erectus's utilization of science not only creates our brains, not only creates the foundation, the tools that we utilize to get to the point that we are all sitting here on our phones, right? Not only does Homo erectus give us these foundations and give us the brain power and give us this concept, right? Or give us this ability of science, right? We see that this carries on within every society until it gets interrupted. Now, it gets interrupted in about 400 CE with Constantine for Europe. And what happens is that science is pretty prolific, and science, questioning the world around you and understanding your space within the world around you is what got us to Rome, right? It is that concept and thought process that brought us agriculture. As much as I detest Western-based agriculture, right? It is still that concept that gets us to Western-based agriculture, the ability of science, right, to get us to Western-based agriculture. It's science that decided not to believe it's testing failures, right? But still, it's science. So when we get to about 400 CE and we see that Constantine is trying to unite Rome under one ruler, he also decides, or not also, he then decides that utilizing a singular god religion or a singular deity religion will help him unite. See, he's currently ruling under what they call a triumvirate at the time, which is 3 different emperors that might have by Constantine time been down to 2 different emperors. Can't exactly remember. It's been a second since I've looked at Constantine's reign specifically. And in his decision to try and unite all of Rome underneath his rule instead of him and his co-emperor's rule, he decides to utilize, a marginalized man's voice, right? Of people that he had been colonizing's voice. And so in doing that, Christianity comes into play. And when Christianity comes into play under Constantine, Christianity comes into play as something that does not have the ability to be questioned. There is no question of authority within Christianity. And this is because they didn't want the authority within the hierarchy questioned, which is something that has happened throughout the thought process within that region for generation upon generation upon generation, and had been utilized through deities for generation upon generation. Yet this twist into a singular deity and a jealous deity also takes away the ability to question that deity, which is something that had not quite been in play before. It just totally like booted me out. It literally just shut down TikTok, like shut down the whole friggin' app on me. Didn't like do anything to the live, apparently, except for pause it. Yeah. Okay, my loves, I've been fighting it for a couple of hours now. I came in this morning fighting it, and I've been fighting it since I came back in. And I did come back in because I wanted to see if Fable was coming back in. But I'm going to go ahead because I don't think that she's even gotten the invite, even though it's been sent. I think that get out of there. I think that I have been, I think that I have to, I'll probably come back and forth live trying to figure out what's going on with TikTok's live and why it's not. But I think that I have to figure out what the heck's going on, because it's really just not working any way I try it. Like, it keeps booting me, and it's not even like it used to be. I'm not getting banned. It's just not working. The app's just not working. So I'll see, maybe I might be able to do it from my tablet and see if that works differently from over there. but we'll try again in a little while. I'm going to go for now, though, and try and organize everything else. Bye. I won't even connect to end.